Welcome everyone to the new podcast, The Equestrian's Inner Life. I'm Penella Hogg, your host, and today's guest, our very first guest, is Mary Hanna. Mary is a 6-time Olympian, having competed in dressage at 6 Olympic Games, which is very, very extraordinary, as very few people have actually achieved that in the history of Olympic dressage. Mary is one of them. And you never know, maybe there will be a 7th. In today's conversation, we will dive deep into the life of a true horsewoman, a lady who lives from the heart, where the horse is the guiding light. Welcome, Mary. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Penella. Lovely to be here.
So tell me, what's been inspiring you lately? What's been giving you energy?
Well, at the moment, I have 2 really lovely horses to work with. I've got Ivanhoe, who I took to the Paris Olympics as reserve horse, and we did the World Cup earlier this year, which was really enormous fun. I really enjoyed that, and we had a very lovely experience doing that. And then I've got a very lovely young 8-year-old that I've got coming up called Fauntleroy. He's quite a challenging horse. He tests me daily. But he's just got so much talent that I just feel like I have to work through all our issues. It's like physically and mentally testing for me. I'm at an age where I'm not quite as fit as I used to. Well, I am fit, but I'm not as strong as I used to be. So I have to find my way around problems, not using strength, using technique, and really thinking through things. So he challenges me both mentally and physically. But I love that challenge, and that's what makes me get out of bed every morning. And with Ivanhoe, it's more like perfecting the little details. He's now a seasoned Grand Prix horse, but we're trying to just make every little thing about him better.
Tell me a bit more about that. How do you do that then? Like, tell me about that sort of inner alignment you feel you need to have to achieve more precision.
Well, you know, it's always looking for this perfection of the movements, perfection of the connection. There's so many aspects to it. You have to sort of look at the personality of the horse. You have to look at the horse physically and mentally. And you have to find the right way to achieve your goals with the horse. It's got to be done at the correct in the correct way. For each horse, the way is a little bit different. So let's say with Ivanhoe, for instance, he's not a horse that improves through constant repetition. But I suppose a lot of horses are like this. He really needs a lot of rewards. He needs to be made feel like he's succeeding. So I'm careful in his work not to, even if I make a little mistake in something, I don't keep repeating it. I think, right, I did this or I did that, or we need to do this or that better. I may do it once or twice that day, but I don't go on continually repeating things, because he loses confidence then, because he's a horse that actually wants to do the work for you. He really wants to please. And so if you, by repeating something, you're saying to the horse, oh, that wasn't good enough, you have to do it again and again. The horse knows that's a form of like reprimand. So instead of that, I try to really reward him for the good things and pat him and encourage him. And when he does that, I can feel him shine. I can feel him going, yes, this is good, this is good. So that's how I work with him. And then it gets down to the really fine little details, you know, how you collect, how you ride a corner, how you make the half hop before the corner, how you prepare for a movement, how you ride out of a movement, that you don't just leap out of something or collapse after a movement. When you ride a Grand Prix level, or when you ride at the top level of our sport, every step counts. So the moment you finish one movement, you immediately have to be thinking about the next thing. So it's quite mentally challenging, because you can't just have a little mental holiday at any point. You have to be all the time completely alert and connected with your horse. You have to feel in every step, you have to feel how the horse anticipate what might happen next, how you have to balance him, how you have to prepare him. So you have to be very mentally connected with your horse and really alert to how he's feeling and what he's doing and how he's reacting. So it's this constant feedback between horse and
Yes.
rider to achieve the best that you can possibly
And what
achieve.
do you find then before you get on a ride to show up the best you can for your horse? What do you have a little routine, or have you got something that you do because, we all have life with us, and now you're getting on the horse. Do you find there's something that you just sort of need to sometimes sort of ground yourself to get on so you can be at your best?
I don't find I have to ground myself to get on. Getting on grounds me. Getting on
That's
the
a
horse
good way of
grounds
putting
me.
it. Yes.
Yeah. So, I walk down to the stables
Yep.
in the morning. I really look forward to getting on the horse because I know the moment I sit on the horse, I stop thinking about all my other problems. I stop thinking
Yep.
about everything else, and I just focus on the horse and the moment that I'm with that horse and listening to the horse and the horse listening to me and the feedback that I get from him. Everything else, all your other worries just
Yes.
go. Physically, if I could have a headache and I'll hop on the horse and I won't even think about it. I could have a splitting headache, which I don't often
Yeah.
get, but if I did, I know I used to get a lot
Yeah.
of sinus pain. I unfortunately don't get it anymore, but when I had that terrible sinus headache, I'd hop on the horse and I would just forget about it. It would be gone. I wouldn't even give it a thought while I was riding the horse. And then I'd get off and sometime later it might come back again. But mostly getting on the horse really clears your mind. But on the other hand, some days I walk down going, right, I'm not
Yes.
in a hurry today. I haven't got a million things I have to do straight afterwards. I have my best rides when I go down to the stables and I say, right, breathe. I've got time. There's no hurry. I've got all the time in the world to do exactly what I need to do with
Yes.
this horse. I won't be in a hurry warming up. I won't be in a hurry at the end. I don't have a
Yes.
time constraint. I will just do as I need to do in the time that it takes
Yes.
to do it and
Yes.
not be in a hurry. And when I have that time, no time limit and no constraints, and I can really just concentrate on that one thing, being with the horse, you definitely get your best rides in those
Yes.
moments.
Do you find then through your riding, over the years, that that's actually something you've mastered much better than when you were younger? That whole idea you're talking about?
Well, in younger days, we were always, it's paying the bills, and we're in this terrible kind of rush to get everything done. A lot of horses to work, a lot of other things. I've sort of refined my things now to just the things that I really want to do that are
Yes.
really important. Still, I teach, and of course, I still have to run a business, but I don't do it at the frantic pace that I used to do it. But so that is
Yes.
helpful for me. But I've also learned over the years, of course, that if you have that attitude, if you take your time and you're really
Yes.
patient, patience is definitely something you get in your
Yes.
older
The
age.
reward.
I know it's definitely would have been short on patience early on, and I wanted it now, this minute, now,
Yes.
now, now. And we had to train in the early days. We had to train horses up to
Yes.
sell them,
Yes.
to make a living. And when you do that, you do work a little differently to when you're just working with this wonderful partner that you have towards competing or just improving the horse. To have that luxury that you don't have to be churning them out to
Yes.
sell them to make ends meet and pay
Yes.
your bills, as many young riders have to do nowadays. You have to pay the bills and you have to make a
Yes.
living. And so then the connection you have with the horse then is different. You're not training with your life partner. You're training a horse that in a commercial sense, that you have to sell the horse and make some good money to pay the bills. And sadly, that's just life for a horse, for a dressage trainer. So I'm very fortunate to be able to be now in a position where I don't have to push myself so hard and I can take my time with the horses. And it's not that I wouldn't have wanted to do that earlier. It's just that I
Yes.
couldn't always do that
Maybe
earlier.
could you tell us a bit more about that difference that you feel in the connection with the horse? Exactly what you're just saying. Like when you were younger and you were having to sell the horses, so it was also part of the business. And then now when they are really your partner and you don't have to do that, what the difference that you're feeling with the horse, like what the horse gives you?
Yeah, it is quite different because you're a little bit afraid to become too emotionally connected to a horse if you know you have to sell it. And when you do have to sell one that you're very emotionally connected to, it's very difficult. There's always a lot of tears and a lot of sadness when you come to that point, because you become, your horse becomes a real partner. You have an incredible partnership and a kind of a
Yes.
relationship, and it's heartbreaking if you have to sell these horses. So I guess you would be a little bit protective of your
Yes.
emotions when you're riding horses for other people, or when you have to sell them. When it's your horse, it is a different relationship. I mean, I'll to be absolutely honest, I can remember I have ridden some horses that I have on training, and I've thought to myself, thank God this is not my horse, because this is not a horse I feel like I want to get married to in a relationship. This is a horse that I won't be that unhappy when I say goodbye.
Yeah.
He's not my friend. Not every horse is your friend. It's like people. Not every person's your friend, and not every horse is your friend, and not every dog's your friend. Some dogs you get on better with others. Some people you get on better with others, and some horses are the same. You get some horses you just have this incredible relationship with, and you just love them no matter what, unconditionally.
Yes.
Like with your children. But some you just might have a little clash of personality, and you just don't connect. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
In all relationships.
So what are some of the best life lessons you have learned through your horses, through the horses that let's start with the ones you've really connected with? What have they really taught you about life?
I think they've taught me patience, and that you've got to be consistent, that you have to allow, like with people, horses have their good and bad days, and you have to be accepting of that. You have to accept the talents and the strengths, that no horse is perfect, no people are perfect. Everybody has their good points, and everyone has their little foibles that maybe you don't get on so well with, but you have to accept the good with the bad. There is no perfect horse. Every horse has its little issues. And I guess what I've learned is you've got to accept those issues. And if you love this horse and you've chosen as the one you want to work with, you have to have patience and just work through it, and be accepting of that the horse has got certain things he may not be as talented in. I find in the training, what I do is, if a horse has a particular talent for something, it might be, say it's got a real talent for pied passage. And normally you don't train that on until they're a little bit older. But if the horse shows a talent for something, I let the horse do it. I don't make the horse do it, but I let the horse do it earlier than you might in a normal training scale. Because when they feel success, they feel good about themselves. And that learning to succeed is like with everyone, learning to win, learning to succeed, learning to feel good about doing something transfers onto other aspects of the training. So, for instance, say your horse has got a talent for flying changes. Don't hold back. Let him do that, and then give him a big pat and say, well done. The same with the piaffe. Play with a little bit if he likes that. Play a little bit with it. Make it fun. Make the movements fun. I think that's important.
Now, to change the subject a little bit, some years back you wrote a book, and this book you called A Long Reign. Can you tell us a bit more about the deeper meaning about the long reign? What does that mean sort of to you?
Well, it started off completely away from horses. In the very beginning, I was fascinated by a love story of my mother. My mother was married twice, but she had this kind of long-standing relationship from before she was ever married for the first time. That was an impossible situation, because the person she fell in love with was a German, and it was before the war. And I think you would know if you've read the book. It's a very interesting story, because she happened to fall in love with a man who became a captain of a raider, a German raider, and the German raider was called the Cormoran, and it sank the Sydney, famously the worst maritime disaster that we've had. And unfortunately, I think it was 600 people died, Australian soldiers died, sailors died on that boat. And the other the ship that he was in charge of, the Cormoran, was also sunk, and he was taken prisoner in Australia. Now, twisted in and out of that is a very interesting story. You would wonder how a woman living in Melbourne and then later in the country would become involved in that way with somebody like that. But it's a very long and very fascinating and interesting story. And it was always a mystery to us as children. And over the years, I little by little, I learnt more and more about it, and I began to do a lot of inquiring and a lot of research, and I found out this most fascinating story, and I wanted to write about that, write that story. But what I decided in the end was that I didn't know enough about it to write that story. Had I questioned my mother and recorded more information more, and of course she wasn't going to tell me everything, I could have maybe written that story, but I felt that would be too much fantasy and fiction in that, and I wanted to write a real story. But along the way, I then started to discover the things that I really thought about my mother and what a strong woman she was and how she inspired me. And then I thought about other family members that did the same and other friends that did the same. And so it turned into, woven into, I decided to write my own story and about these incredible people that had inspired me along the way. And, of course, the first one being my mother, who was a great horsewoman and a very strong personality and very driven. And she was, of course, my number one and main inspiration. But along the way, there were other wonderful family members and friends who all had fascinating stories. One was taken prisoner of war, interned, not prisoner of war, but interned in Indonesia in a camp and almost starved to death. And her story was amazing because she came through that without any hate or malice or regret. She actually embraced the experience, even though she'd nearly died, because she learnt so much from that about what was important in life and strength of character that built within her, that she found within herself. Because when you're tested like that, you find your own strengths. She was a woman that really inspired me. And look, there were many other stories there. My Aunt Kitty, who won the first two Gary Owens, she was a wonderful horseman and horsewoman and a very strong person with a very great personality. And I learned so much from all these people. One of the other people that in my story is a man called Doc Matthews, who was in the Mounted Police, and he trained. He has a wonderful story behind him because he was an orphan found in the streets of St Kilda and rose to being in charge of all the Mounted Police via going in the army and being on the Burma Railway. So you can imagine what sort of person it took to survive all that. And then he ended up in the Mounted Police because he loved horses. And he took a beautiful thoroughbred horse he had called Aintree Boy, and he trained it up to Grand Prix. Well, that was in the days when that was never heard of. And he trained it because he had a film from the Pan Am Games, and he watched this film over and over, and he was fascinated with these horses doing all the Grand Prix work. And so he started to play with his police horse, and he taught his police horse all the Grand Prix movements very nicely, including tempi changes, and he taught it all the piaffe passage. But when he got to train that, he couldn't quite do it just from watching the video. So he actually wrote a letter to Podolsky of the Spanish Riding School and said, I want to train my horse to do Grand Prix and I don't know how to train piaffe passage. How do I do it? As I said in the book, if you're a horse person, that was like writing to God. Anyway, he got a letter back explaining how to do it, and he did it, and he trained that horse, and I remember it, doing beautiful piaffe passage. And one of my inspirational moments was watching him at the Royal Melbourne Show under spotlights, I think the music was Born Free, and he rode this beautiful, magical freestyle, and it was a
Yeah.
stormy night. It was actually raining and there was steam rising off the horse, and he never missed a beat. He rode through the entire test, all the Grand Prix work, to this beautiful music. It was the first time I've ever seen anything
Wow.
like that. And from that moment on, I just wanted to do that. I thought it
You're
was just
hooked.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So they're all these wonderful people. And then in and out of that, of course, is my competition career with I think when I wrote that book, I'd only done 4 Olympics, but I did
Yes.
several afterwards. And all the trials and tribulations I went through as a sports person, because when you're competing at Olympic level, you don't get to any Olympics without some
No.
drama, some testing moments, a lot of stress, and a hell of a lot of
Yes.
hard work. And so in and out of all my life has been this striving towards Olympics and the hardships and the difficulties and just the difficulties of life. So, look, it's the story of my life and the people that inspired me. That's what it became in the
Yes.
end.
So could you think of and share some moments where you really had to draw on some of the lessons you learned from these strong women and men, like some situation in your own riding career where you had to dig really deep to sort of get through? Thinking of them, what would they have done?
Well, not related to competition, one of my worst moments was when we got burnt on Ash Wednesday. The entire property was
Yes.
burnt down. And we just built this new indoor arena and stables and everything. Everything got burnt down. The only thing we saved was just the little house, which had the roof blown off. That was an incredibly difficult time. And I think I subconsciously drew on those strengths then. I've always been quite a positive person. I always try to look at the positives. So I tried, I didn't sit down and go, oh dear, this is the end of the world. At that time, my first husband had won a scholarship to go to, Gert Donvig had won a scholarship to go to
Yes.
Germany to study dressage, and everything was burnt down. So he said, oh, perhaps I shouldn't go. I said, no, you must go because we have nothing here. So just go. And while you're away, we'll rebuild everything. And you'll be back in 3 months and I'll make sure it's all rebuilt.
Wow.
And we did. We had it all rebuilt, and he came back 3 months later and we were
Wow.
off and racing. So,
That's amazing.
I like my aunt in the internment camp. I think you have to take a really bad thing and you have to put a spin on it in your mind and turn it into a good thing. You have to make it an
I like that.
opportunity. Take some strength out of bad things and use that to build up more good things. I think that's what you have to do. I did have some very difficult times with selections and appeals and ups and downs of competition and lame horses and things going wrong at the last minute, and just having to pick yourself up and keep going sometimes when you really feel just desperate and beaten up. I've always managed to pick myself up, and I think that comes from my upbringing and the people around me. You just have to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep going.
I know the words, they sound so good, but again, sort of how does that process sort of happen through you? Do you know what I mean? Because that's not so easy, is it? Do you find there that
I don't really analyse it. I think that's automatic for me over life's
yes,
experiences. I think it's a subconscious thing, and that's why I think it's built in by watching the people
yes,
around you, and the people, admiring people, and watching how people succeed, watching how people get on with their lives. As a rider, you watch what the top
yes,
athletes do, and how strong people are. I mean, I remember watching a film about David Beckham. And quite a few of the riders that I know really related to that, not because we think we're fabulous, but because of the terrible things that can happen to you in sport with social media and the public, and how people can turn on you, and they can go, it's sort of like a pack of hyenas. The tide turns, and everyone joins in on social media, and they love to beat you up. And it happens to a lot of sports people, and you've got to be very strong to get through that. And I have learnt to do that. I have had times when these appeals have happened and things where I've had the press and the public turn on me, and I've had to get through it. And I would say emotionally, those have been the hardest things for me. That happened after the London Olympics very badly, and it happened to me at the Sydney Olympics. And I would say emotionally they were probably the most damaging moments in my life, because a lot of it was out of my control, whereas with the fires I was able to take control and fix the problem. The things I find are most difficult is when I can't fix it. I just have to write it out. I can't actually fix it myself. So they're the difficult times in life, when you just have to ride out these storms, and you say to yourself, you just have to go out and ride better, and you have to be better. And that's what we all admired about David Beckham, because he was just kicked and kicked and kicked, and then he just rose up and kept going, and he just kept going out and doing really well and doing really well and just getting better and better, and then he just rose above it, and life went on. And as a sports person, that's what you have to do, and it can be very difficult in these times of social media.
Do you find that as you're going through a stage like that in your life, how does that affect your riding? Do you get actually a closer relationship to your horse through that time?
Oh, I can remember just dragging myself down to the stable and thinking, I don't know if I can keep doing this. And then hopping on the horse and riding, and then going, yeah, I can keep doing this. Because as I said, you hop on the horse and all your problems fade away. You get on the horse and that's all you think about is you and the horse. And then that's what saves you. Horses have saved me every time of every crisis in my life. Just that getting on the horse and that connection, the lovely feel. You know, you go down to the stable, you pat your horse, you groom him, you connect, you work with him, you hop off, you reward him, you look at him, check his legs, you just connected to this horse in a way. You make him comfortable, you want him to feel good, you want him to be warm and clean and safe in his stable, or happy out in sunshine in his paddock. And you think about his emotions and how he's feeling, and it stops you worrying about yourself. You think about your horse and your horse's well-being, and that takes your mind off your own problems.
Horses are just a solution, aren't they? They are the best.
They are the cure for everything. Horses cure everything in my life.
So then, now where you are at with your riding, are you thinking ahead of what you would like to do? Like, are you sort of planning ahead?
Yes, I am. So I'm still planning international competitions. If I don't get there, it's not the end of the world, but we like to plan these things. So, and I find it really gives me great motivation to get out of bed in the morning, to go down and think about, right now, at the moment I'm concentrating on the World Championships next year. At the back of my mind with the younger horse, I'm thinking about the LA Olympics. So I'm always planning ahead with the competition like that. But I'm also really enjoying, I don't teach a lot of people, but I teach some very lovely people. And I'm teaching some young riders, and I really love that. Young riders with real ambition and talent. The main one I have here is Jasmine Haynes, and she's doing extremely well. And she's got a lovely rapport with the horses, and I love teaching her because she listens very well, and she loves her horses, and she's got great respect for the horses, and she's kind to the horses, but she's also quite ambitious and competitive. So I love teaching people like that, and I've got a number of other Grand Prix riders that I'm teaching. And I really enjoy teaching people, like at all levels, but I guess particularly when the higher levels, because that's my area of expertise and that's a place I can help people. I'm not planning to retire anytime, because horses are what get me out of bed in the morning. I don't know what I'd do without them, really, or teaching people. I love teaching. those people that really want to learn something.
So if we talk a little bit about all these 6 Olympics that you've been to, each one must
Yes.
have felt different. Which one? Yes. Tell us a bit
Absolutely.
more about that. You know, the feeling of riding there and getting ready and what you learned from each one that really, you know, you could take with you.
Well, there's no doubt that the most exciting Olympics for me ever was going to Atlanta, the first Olympics that I did. Well, of course, everything's new and amazing. I did it in the most wonderful circumstances. So I went earlier in the year. I won the World Cup, Pacific League World Cup finals. So I had won the ticket to compete in Göteborg in the World Cup on Mosaic. So I went over at the beginning of the year to Sweden to train with Kira Kirkland, which was a really magic, wonderful experience. I had my current coach was Clemens Dirks at the time in Australia, and he'd been marvellous and got me there. And then Kira trained me during the time I was in Sweden leading up to the Olympics. I was lucky enough to have Clemens also came to, because Kira was competing in the Olympics, so Clemens came to be my coach at the Olympics, and he was marvellous, and he knew me very well and my horse very well. So I had excellent coaching all the way through. I had the experience of competing in Europe, and so I had this wonderful coaching and wonderful competition experience, which is ideal in preparation for my first Olympics. And then I travelled with Kira to the Olympics, and I remember the flight went out, we travelled down together with our horses. She had Admiral and I had Mosaic. We travelled down together in the truck to Münster, where the flight took off. They had a charter flight of 50 horses to go to the Olympics, and we flew, and, you know, I was like a kid in a candy shop, just my eyes on stalks with Isabel Worth, and all these superstars were on the plane with us. And we went down with the whole Swedish team, travelled down together with us. And there was Ulla Håkansson, who was one of my other heroes. And all the Swedish riders, Jan Brink, I think, was there. All these people I just admired so much. The Dutch team, I knew several of the Dutch team. I think Tineke Bartels was in that team. All these people that I'd got to know and was getting to know, just all these heroes, and travelling with them. And then we travelled to North Carolina, where Kira had organised a training camp, and we stayed at this wonderful property of Linda Keenan and did training there, had a lovely training camp. And then we moved into the Olympics. And the whole thing, I just thought I was in some kind of dream. It was just so perfect and so much fun. We enjoyed the whole experience so much. It was just incredible, and I'll never forget that feeling walking into my very first Olympics at the opening ceremony, and you walk down a ramp into the main arena with all the Australian athletes in your uniform. It was just the proudest moment, and it's absolutely addictive, of course, because I was saying to Rob, oh, if I could just do one Olympics, wouldn't that be wonderful? That would be so marvellous. I'd just be so excited to do one Olympics. Well, once you've done one Olympics, let me tell you, you're hooked, because there's nothing like that feeling, and you just want to do it again and again and again. So that was the really special Olympics for me. That's the standout.
And also
you
did describe in the book again that feeling that Mosaic he gave you as you entered into the big arena.
Oh, he was amazing, yes, because he was only a tiny little horse. He was barely 16 hands. I think he was actually 15.3. And he had fairly short legs. He was sort of a stocky little strong person. And he could be a little bit lazy. But I'll never forget that feeling riding in with a packed crowd. They had a huge stadium. I can't remember how many people, but a lot of people, and it was packed. And when you went in, you just felt this atmosphere. It was incredible. And I felt the horse he was the horse for a big occasion, we used to say. He only did his best on a big occasion. If you took him to the local show, he was terrible. But if you took him to a big occasion, then you had a different horse. And he rose. He felt like 17 hands in that moment. And he felt like he would do anything for me. And he did. And he did the test of his lifetime. and went beyond everybody's expectations. Until then, people had come pretty well last every time at the Olympics. And I remember saying to Richard White, who was Kira's partner, "Oh, do you think there's anyone I could beat, you know?" And he sort of sucked his teeth a bit and went, "Oh, you might beat the Italians maybe." So they didn't expect me to do very well either. So when I qualified for the special and did extremely well and beat most of the people, including Kira, that I travelled over with, but I can't claim that really because her horse had a little bit of an upset. But Clemens had to cancel his trip home because he didn't think I'd make the special, so he had to change his flight to stay because I qualified for the next round. And that was, nobody in the world thought I was ever going to do that, let alone me. So it was just a very special moment. And I'll never forget it.
It does show, though, too, that the horse does realise what is going on. Do you believe that? Yeah.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. I've had a couple of... Sunset was another horse like that. He was a horse for a big occasion. He always did his best with the hugest atmosphere. And notably, like, he was very good in London, but he was even better in Cannes at the World Championships. In Cannes at the World Championships in France, we had this very difficult arena. It had very high sides, a packed crowd, plenty of Australians there. The whole arena was packed out, and it was the same feeling when you went into that arena, except it was almost a bit echoey. And it had been raining and the lights sort of reflected off the surface a little bit. So it was quite, a lot of horses got quite upset there. He just went in like, "Oh, this is important. Oh, I'm really going to do a good job today." And he'd been quite naughty in the warm-up, and my trainer then was Tonderita. And he was sort of looking at me in horror because the horse was had his knees under his chin and was passaging not exactly when I asked him, and very, very full of himself and spooky. But I knew that when he did that, when he got in the arena, he'd be perfect, and he was. And he did the best of all the Australian horses and also qualified for the special there with a very good score. So on those two occasions, I had horses that you just go into the arena and they love to compete. They are competitors. They're there to do the job, they know it. And they go in and they feel really proud to be there and try so hard, and they do better work than they've ever done in their lives in those circumstances. And you've just got to love those horses.
Oh my God, I can feel it. That is so amazing. Wow, Mary. Well, no wonder that you've become addicted to that, because that would be a pretty awesome feeling, travelling through horse and rider.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And when you like that, you get nervous, but not in a bad way. You get nervous like you can't wait to do it way. It's interesting. Yeah, you get these really good adrenaline nerves. But you sort of calm inside because you trust your horse and you know your horse.
That makes sense, the trust.
And that's important. Yeah. You've got to trust your horse. When you trust your horse, you get nervous, but in a good way, not in a bad way.
Yes, I think that makes perfect sense. It's that works in life. If you trust, you feel calmer, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It gives you an inner calm to trust your horse. And you can have these horses that get hot and excited outside of it. They actually are competitors and they're brave and they want to do the job.
So then when you went to the London Olympics and the Sydney Olympics, what did you learn from those that were not the highlights, as you were saying, the other, what did you learn?
Well, I learned that it wasn't always fun, unfortunately. I after my first Olympics, I thought this was the greatest thing that it ever invented, and it was so much fun. Apart from the fact that we had good performance, I really enjoyed it. I have to say I did not enjoy the Sydney Olympics and I did not enjoy the London Olympics because of all the politics surrounding selection. In both cases I was selected, and in both cases there were appeals against the selection, which involved very nasty court cases and a very bad feeling and a lot of nasty social media and press. Really nasty. Just you can't believe how nasty people can be. And lies, outright lies, and I've experienced other times in a lesser way, but I'm pretty tough now. You could pretty well do anything to me. You stick knives in, and I don't think I react anymore.
But
But so it toughened me up. I'll say, all I can say is, what doesn't break you does make you stronger. It is true. And I've certainly came out stronger in the
yes.
end. But I have to say that after London is the closest I've ever come to feeling like I didn't want to live anymore, through horrible things that were done. But I got through it, as you do. But it wasn't my poor horse. I loved my horse. My horse did such a great job in the arena. That was a good moment. I enjoyed riding
Yes.
the test. I loved it. What I didn't enjoy was all the rubbish that went
All
on
the
around it.
surrounding. Yeah.
And it was the same in Sydney, you know. To be crying at the Olympics is not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Wasn't fun.
No.
But, you know, it wasn't the horse's fault.
No. Yeah.
The horses were good. The horses gave me a wonderful ride, and then you just try and think about that. And then you just go on and hope it's not going to be so horrible next time, and that you will enjoy your horse and the training of the horse. But I have learnt that there's pretty well not been, except for that first one I went to in Atlanta. I was an individual rider, and I was the only one properly qualified anyway, so there was no argument.
Okay.
Every other Olympics or World Championships I've been to, just about, there has been appeals and horrible stuff going on, very depressing, pulling people down with all these appeals and things. And I don't know, Australia seems to be a country where everyone does it all the time. I don't know why that is. It's very sad for everybody, and probably we're not ever going to change, but that's part of it, unfortunately. You have to be tough, and you have to get through that, and you have to enjoy your horse and enjoy the ride and enjoy the training, because it's not something you go to do for fun. It's not so much fun anymore, but it's about the challenge of the training and improving your horse and getting to that level and representing your country. And you know, the one, I must say, it was lovely in the end in Paris, because I was reserve rider. Again, there was appeals, you know, the same rubbish again. But I think they were very happy to have me as reserve rider because of my experience going through all this stuff. And I was able to support the other riders. And they were a lovely, lovely team of riders. We had Simone Pearce, Will Matthews, and Jaden Brown. And it was just a lovely, lovely team. Great young upcoming people. Lovely to be a part of it. And I was very happy to support those riders and be there in case anything went wrong. And that was also a very, very good experience.
And that's so true, didn't it?
Yeah, my first Olympics was great. And the last one that we just had, that was also a great experience. And as I said, there was an appeal, but that's water off a duck's back now.
I think life sort of presents you with all these different challenges, doesn't it? And if you don't go through them, then you actually will not know, because if I suppose you have learned now to do your best regardless.
Exactly. That's what you have to do. The world can be falling apart around you. You have to just go on. The show goes on. You have to compete. You have to concentrate on what you're doing. You have to wipe everything else out of your mind and just connect with your horse and concentrate on your horse. That's what you have to do. And my advice to any other riders coming up, Australian riders, young riders, people coming up, be prepared. It's not all beer and Skittles. It's not easy. But it's worthwhile to get through all that and do it. And if you ever end up in a situation like that with social media and appeals and those sort of things, you just have to toughen up and get through it, and just think about your horse. You just have to be tough. It's not for the faint-hearted.
No, it's not
really
not a
isn't.
walk in the park, is it? No.
No.
But again, then now that you have travelled your way through all these 6 Olympics and lived your life simultaneously.
Well, 7 Olympics if I count Paris, because that wasn't Olympic. Okay, I wasn't part of the team.
You were there. There's only very few dressage riders that has actually participated in that many Olympics since, through all history. So it's quite an achievement.
Yes, that's true.
That's you know what I mean?
Yes, I guess it is now. I didn't have that in mind when I set out to do it. That just happened.
No, but anyway, what I wanted to ask you was then, yes, so you've traveled the path of going to all these Olympic Games, and you have been through all the challenges. So now when you are looking back, you must, not you must, but I'm sure you can reflect and think, still be glad, in fact, that you have gone through it all, and here you are. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, if life
Yeah.
was a flat line, you'd
Yes.
be bored to tears. Like as my aunt said about the internment camp, I keep coming back to that. She embraced what happened to her, which was dreadful, but she said it made her a better person, and she was never regretted that it happened to her. And I don't regret any of the things that have happened to me, not one thing, because I have learned something from every single thing that has happened to me in my life. And I've tried to turn every single bad thing into a positive for the future of my life.
That is such a good attitude. That is such a good, yes, I like that. And I suppose then too now,
well, I think that's how you have to live.
With all the teaching that you're doing you're teaching a lot of young riders, you can really bring that forward, because that really helps, doesn't it, for them to...
Yes, well, I try not to scare them too much with how awful it could be.
True.
When they come to that crisis, I'll be there for them.
Oh, Mary, well, this has been a really good conversation. I love hearing all those stories. If you were going to whisper a little message into all Equestrians' heart that they can take with them, on their own journey forward, what will you tell? What would you say?
I would just say, choose your partner wisely, your horse. Choose a horse that you really love, and then treasure that relationship and that bond that you have. And there will always be ups and downs, but it's worthwhile working through it. And just, love your horse and care for your horse, and keep your horse's health and welfare at the top all the time. And if you do that, the horse will give back to you 100-fold. It's a very rewarding relationship, and it's a relationship that can take you through your life in a very positive way.
Thank you for that. Yes, I love that. Well, thank you. That has been so good to have you here and to share all that.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Camilla. I really enjoyed it.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. I hope you really enjoyed it and found lots of wisdom and inspiration to take with you. Until next time, ride the way you want to live.